You are in the Warriors Huddle with me, Bram, no Maxime or Marcus today, but I'm fired up to announce that rejoining me, my favorite guest. I mean, let's not play games. It's my favorite guest. I always kind of insinuate maybe it's unquestioned my favorite guest, a high profile college and NBA guru, the best draft insider who has spent season after season developing more background, relationships, and experience than anyone, anywhere within the sports media landscape. The woman who told us that Wiseman to the Warriors would be a mistake months before that mistake played out. And the person whose opinion I'd want if I needed an evaluation of a young talent, Miss Krysten Peek. What's going on, KP?
The reason why I keep coming back is I just love all your intros every single time. A plus.
I mean, I'll let you know they're getting kind of nerve-wracking. I know, I want them to be like really impressive. And you've given me this compliment. And instead of just receiving that compliment and being like all fired up about it, now when I sit down to write one, I'm kind of sweating. Like, what can I add? Is there enough things in here? I almost said something about Vegas, but I wasn't sure. So I appreciate that one landed.
Yes, yeah, it was great.
How you been? It's been a while since we've seen you. It's everything's treating you well. The move to Vegas is okay. Yeah, life's going smoothly.
Yeah, I have been really busy calling high school games with NBA TV for their future starts now. All the EYBL Scholastic games. I leave tomorrow to go to Hoop Hall Classic, which is by far the best high school event. So if you want to watch the Boozers, if you want to watch Darren Peterson, if you are sick of watching the Warriors, you can watch it on the NBA app and NBA YouTube page. So I will be calling 4 games there. I called 12 games in 3 days a week ago. So I'm like, 4 games. Yeah, I could do this.
Labor of love, like on the 12th game, are you still fired up? Like, oh, I've got one more game coming, or do you kind of start resenting it after like the eighth, ninth game?
I love it. And thankfully, all the games had high profile prospects and they all played well. Like Tyron Stokes was playing through the flu. He's the number one player in the junior class, 6'8, 240 point forward. And he was like one assist away from a triple double. And then the very next day, he like gives me a hug. And I'm like, ugh, weren't you just sick? And I was like, how are you feeling? And he goes, I feel fine, KP. I'm like, oh, to be young again and have flu like symptoms and just almost have a triple double. And then he had 34 points and 14 rebounds. So for a hoopaholic and a hoop head like me, I love it.
I respect that. If somebody asked me, like, take anything I do for a living, if I had to do it 12 straight times in a short period of time, no way I'm giving it in passion. Like, yes, I loved that part. Like that deposition I did for the 12th time was fantastic. So I'd like to be the kind of person who's just happy for you. Instead, I'm kind of jealous and resentful that you got that much. So congratulations to you. We need you, KB. So things have been better in Warriors land. Things have been worse too, but it's not the best of times. The Warriors just fell below 500. They are 19 and 20. They just lost to a Toronto Raptor team that I think is like 9-1,000. Like they've lost basically every game before playing us. And a quote came out recently from Steph Curry that I want to run past you. But first, the theme for today, right? So we've got this segment, glass half full. We use it each time. Normally it's limited to just basketball. And we look back at recent Warriors basketball, give you something you like or something you don't. Today, expanding that. Yeah. I'm going to cover this quote with Steph with you. I want to hear glass half full, things you like, things you didn't about Las Vegas. And then we're going to dive into the draft because I think the Warriors might be getting a little bit closer to being a lottery team than a contending team. But the glass half full version of that is I remember you telling me that this draft is super deep. So hopefully you can convince me to step away from the ledge and take this free fall of the Warriors a little bit better. All right.
Got it. Yep.
All right. Here's the first one. So I'm going to give you this quote. This is from Steph. After losing to Toronto in another, they didn't just lose, KP. They lost in the same way they've lost every fucking game this year. And I'm sorry, Mrs. Peak. I'm trying hard. No F bombs. Maybe that'll be my only one. But they're playing a team that I think they've got more talent than. They get out to a lead of like 9 points in the fourth quarter. And then, despite having that lead, everybody watching, everybody playing, everybody knew they were going to lose. And then they lost. And they talked to Steph afterwards. And the issue that's been going on here is without the players really coming in, should the front office use their future draft picks and bring somebody in? There's been all these names. We've heard Jimmy Butler, Nikolai Vucevic is one of the guys we've heard, Zach LaVine, all these guys. But then after the Toronto loss, Steph seemingly said, don't do it. Here's what he dropped. He's not interested in, quote, desperate trades or desperate moves that deplete the future. And more, quote, like there's a responsibility on keeping the franchise in a good space and good spot when it comes to where we leave this thing when we're done. Doesn't mean that you're not trying to get better. Doesn't mean that you're not active in any type of search. If you have an opportunity where trade makes sense or in the summer, free agency makes sense, you want to continue to get better. Nobody wants to be stale or be in a situation where you're passing up opportunities, but it doesn't mean that you're desperate, just flinging assets around the place just because you want to do something. So, first question, you hear that quote, interpret it for me. You are in the media landscape. What's he saying?
I think what he's saying is, it's we're we're already in the lottery spot. We shouldn't be thinking about throwing Hail Marys. He probably knows I'm getting older. And I don't know what that means for him as a player. Like, is he gonna play till 40 like LeBron? Maybe. And
Right.
I remember I was like reading like LeBron wanted to go to the Warriors. I'm like, for what? Yes, he's awesome, but like, how many more years does he have? So whenever I hear a quote like that, um, it makes me excited about what conversations are being had in the front office, about what sort of conversations are being held looking at the talent coming up and maybe in free agency. And then also we have to remember like expansion teams. When is the expansion draft going to happen?
Hmm.
So there's probably a lot of conversations that are being held in the front office, but for Steph to kind of, give his white flag and be like, let's not nuke this
Yeah.
just for a chance to get another franchise player, that didn't work well for the Clippers. That hasn't worked well. They traded away Shea
Yep.
Gilgis Alexander for Paul George. And I would say Oklahoma City now standing at, the better end of that trade. And if any of the GMs have learned anything from Sam Presti, who basically said, no, we are going to rebuild from the ground up. We are going to get our cornerstone pieces, Shea, Chet, and we're going to build pieces around there. And then you saw basically the Brooklyn Nets. They have now traded away everything and they are collecting picks and they're trying to rebuild. And so when you're seeing that success, especially with OKC, it only took them 3 seasons to go from basically last place to a playoff team. I mean, there's hope in the terms of if you pick the right players and the right draft, that you can get those complementary pieces to build around a player like Steph.
And you have Phoenix, right, on the other side. I mean, they did what,
Yeah.
kind of what we're talking about here. They went all in for Kevin Durant. It's not like they're a championship contender right now. I mean, they're closer to us than they are to OKC. Let me make it a advice question. All right. And because I meant what I said during the intro, you are the person I would go to for any advice on young players. You also know Steph as well as anybody. You watched him come up, right? So it seems to me the two sides of this thing are one, the people who are arguing, give up the picks, bring in somebody. The argument is that you're never going to see a player of Steph's caliber again. That generational player means something. We're not going to skip ahead another generation. This is it. This is our guy. So go all the way in. But the other side, just like you said, is if you do that and swing and miss, if you give up all your assets and you don't win a championship now you're screwed for a lot of years, for a lot of years. So if Mike Dunleavy called you and said, I don't know how to handle this, I'm really not sure. Should I go all the way in or should I just hold off and follow Steph's advice? Don't go for any trades. What do you tell him?
Hold off, especially when we're looking at the 2025 and 2026 draft and so much talent. I mean, this draft class, the 2025 draft, is way deeper than what's coming next year. But the
Yep.
talent in next year's draft class at the top, AJ DeBonsa, Darren Peterson, Cameron Boozer, Koa Pete, those are 4 players that are already being circled by
Wow.
NBA front offices. So when you're looking at the next 2 years and the cornerstone players that could be entering the league, you be patient.
Yeah.
You let the young group work through their struggles. Nobody wants to be the team that gives up a Shea Gilgis Alexander.
Right.
Even and this isn't I'm not picking on the Clippers, but they kind of hid BJ Boston at the end of the bench forever. And then when they finally traded him, he had a stretch of games of like 8 games where he scored 15 to 25 points. You know what I mean? So no team wants to be that team who let go of a dude. And so like let your team let your group work through it,
How
especially with
confident
what's coming.
this depth, how confident, right? There's a person in my life who is on the trade everything, bring them in side of the ball. And what his argument for that is, you never know about draft picks. You know, that people can say that drafts are deep, but you never really know. It's kind of a flip of the coin to see. How confident are you about these next two drafts that, we do go at least five deep, six deep, whatever it is?
For this year's draft and next year's draft, I mean, when you're looking at the lottery and particularly the one and done talent, it is significantly better than last year. I think I saw an article, and the article was, this is the worst performing rookie class in the last 15 years. It's like, well, yeah, we all told you it was going to be a weak draft. I think the biggest winner of the draft last year was the Brooklyn Nets, who were like, I'm out. We're not, we don't want to pick at all. And so there's something to be said about that. And then you turn around and you have what we're going to see with Cooper Flagg and Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper and a few other guys at the top of this draft. But it doesn't stop there. Yes, that is like top tier. But then 4 to 12 is really promising and good talent as well.
We'll get details on that. I got some questions for you. But before we do, the glass half full tour continues. Tell me about Vegas, dude. So, I mean, my experience with Vegas is just like most people, bachelor parties, vacations. I mean, the locations I've been in Vegas are all strip based. I haven't even been to like downtown. I haven't explored it at all. So you live there now. Give us some
Yeah.
upsides, downsides. How is it?
I love it. The biggest upside is the weather. No more snow, no more cold walks with Gary in the morning, hating my life. Which is oddly funny because I'm actually going back to Utah to see a couple players, and I'm like, it's gonna be so cold. So the weather is by far the best. I live in Summerlin, which is like a suburb, like a new suburb, and anything I could ever want in my life is like 10 minutes in a radius from me, which is great. And I know we've talked about this. I like joined a yoga studio. I'm like getting back into that. And there's great walking trails. Ask me how I feel in July, but like Vegas, October to January has been fantastic, except for maybe a couple things.
Don't you skip past the yoga thing? Like you haven't told me that you're not in there like a competitive warrior, upset that you still aren't as phenomenally good at yoga as she is. And let the record reflect also, we're going back and forth. I tell Kristen, yeah, I've been to like one yoga class, and I did. I got a little competitive in there because I was terrible. And she hits me back with, oh, I used to do it in Bali on the beach with just what we have an ongoing relationship where you punk me with like really incredible experiences you've been on. And like, I'm like, oh, I'm hiking in the Oakland Hills. Weird. I'm in like the Swiss Alps. You always are able to take it another step further.
I know. Well, and I went to Bali twice for a yoga retreat. That's how I was really good at yoga. I could do all the tricks. And then to go in this class that I took 3 days ago and completely suck at it, I came out and the guy's like, he's like, how was it? I was like, I died. And he goes, oh, so you don't want to sign up for a membership? I said, no, I want a membership. You will see me every day until I'm good at this again. And he's like, oh, that's not really what yoga is about. I'm like, I don't care. I'm going to be good at this.
How about you just sign me up for the membership? I'll worry about what yoga is.
I'll worry about it.
I'd also get a picture of me on the beach in Bali on a shirt and then just wear that every single time. Tell me about the scorpion.
Oh my gosh, Bram. Okay, okay. Listen, I know the last time we talked, I had just moved into the house and I was moving a box in the garage, and I moved the box and I saw one go like just, and I'm like, ugh! Put the box back down, never saw it again, out of sight, out of mind, never saw it again. Literally, I don't know, 5 or 6 days ago, I'm like cooking dinner and I've got light hardwood floors, right? And the scorpions here, the ones that I've been told that are like the most common, are like the color of light tan, right? So Gary is like sniffing at something and pawing. And I was like, what is he doing? And I look closer and he was trying to play with this scorpion.
Oh,
And I'm like, no. And I pick him up. I lock him in the bathroom with the lights off. I didn't even turn the light on. He's probably like, what is happening? Then I'm looking at this scorpion. It's like it's not big at all. It's tiny, right? But like, what do they say about smaller bugs? The harder the sting. Yeah, I don't know. I don't want anything to do with it.
oh.
So I'm like, okay, how am I going to kill this thing? It's me or him, like this bug or me. And so Gary's like whining at the door. And so I go and I grab my least favorite pair of shoes. And I'm like, okay, it's wartime. And I chucked the one shoe at it and it kind of like scurried a little bit. I'd heard it. And then I chucked the second shoe and it was like kind of still alive. So then I drowned it with a bottle of Raid. And that was that. And then I'm like, okay, well, is the poison out of its like stinger? How do I clean this up? So I put gloves on, like, rubber gloves that you do to clean. And I was like using different utensils to pick this stupid scorpion up. And then I called the like extermination company. They came like the very next day and the guy thought it was hilarious. He's like, oh no, you'll probably never see one again, but we'll spray your house. And the guy was going through pricing. And I was like, I don't care what the price is. I will pay you whatever you want. So
$5 million. Make sure that I never
yeah,
scorpion in here again. We're gonna fast
ever.
forward like 3, 4 months, and you're just gonna be a scorpion killing veteran. That.
They Do you know how you're supposed to kill them? Either
Oh,
you no, this is what the guy told me just nonchalantly. He's like, well, you can either take like a sharp kitchen knife and just get close to it and just cut off its tail because that's the stinger and it'll die. Or they're like, here's these sticky traps. And when you see one, you just kind of like press it to it and the scorpion will stick to it. I'm like, none of the above. No, you guys stay.
oh. You know what advice I do not need? Get super close to it. And also, that's not like anything you cut in half with a knife is probably going to die. You know what I mean? Like, I don't feel like that's like super specialized knowledge you got from the exterminator. Yeah,
Oh
well,
man.
I'm impressed. And no, I don't know the right way to kill scorpions. KB, they're not in my life. I'm in California, dude. I'm not in the
I know.
desert. I'm not like, there's not scorpions around that I've developed.
I can't believe Gary was like pawing at it. Like that was either call an extermination company and pay the $65 a month, or I'm taking Gary to a trip to the emergency vet because he got stung.
Well, don't think that I am good enough of a person where I won't reuse a joke that I've already texted you. So I'm going to fire it off right now. What was worse, the men in Utah or the scorpions in Vegas?
Definitely the men in Utah. Do we need to rehash those stories? Like I wasted my time like actually doing my hair. You know me, I'm always in like a hat, like trying to make myself look presentable. I leave my dog for the horrible quality of men and dating experiences that happen in Utah. But I do have a Vegas half full in that regard. So my friend Adam Finkelstein, who I was calling the 18 million games with, he's like, KP, we got to get you back out there. You're in a new city. Like, let's get back on the dating app. So I was like, okay, fine. And he's like swiping for me. He's like, oh, this guy looks nice. And he's like a chocolate scientist and a chef.
Okay.
And I haven't met him yet, but like seems like a nice enough guy. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, how is he going to respond? I mean, this would be equivalent to me going out with someone and then being like, oh, I hate basketball. I haven't had chocolate, sweets, ice cream, anything, candy in 10 years. I don't touch it. I'm not into it. So like here's this guy, he looks like a nice enough guy, but he's a chocolate scientist. How do you think that's going to go over?
Well, just gotta, I mean, weaponize this. Ask questions about it, right? You don't like, okay, here's the first piece of advice. Don't start off by being like, you know what I haven't done? Eaten chocolate for 10 years. Fuck you and your chocolate. I wouldn't go that direction. Okay. The show feign interest in it. Cause actually, I mean, I eat chocolate. I have no idea what a chocolate scientist is. I don't know what that phrase means. So I mean, maybe it can be like a full conversational topic. Here's what I'm more interested in you let your friend do the swiping on the dating apps? Like,
Yeah, I don't care.
I mean, not
I
at all.
it's clear I have bad taste. So maybe if somebody else is doing the swiping, I'll actually land on a decent enough guy.
You are exceptionally trusting. I don't let people pick like restaurants. Like I have real trust issues. So we'll see how this goes. All right.
It
Well,
can't get any worse, Bram. Come on.
yeah. Okay. I mean, fair enough. We'll see. Maybe the next time we'll see you, in addition to being an expert scorpion killer, you'll also be really into chocolate. I mean, maybe you'll like taking sweets back into your life because this guy opened up that door again.
Not happening. But what you're saying there's a chance, maybe.
All right, back to basketball. Okay,
Yes.
so tell me about the draft. So right now, Warriors are 19 and 20. If they held the draft today, the Warriors would be in the 10 spot. But that means that they still got to put the balls in the lottery and actually determine an order. So if the Warriors keep playing really poorly, they could find themselves somewhere probably between 7, 12, something like that. So I know the top half of the draft is loaded, but I don't think we're going to get a shot at that. Yeah. So give me who goes 1 through 5. Is that already pretty much determined?
Ish, yeah. And let me just say, like, don't sell yourself short of, 7 to 12 range. Like there's if you finish 10th, you still have a 2.5% chance at the number one pick
Hey,
and a 12% chance at a top four.
there you
So
go. Okay.
we're half glass fulling this,
Yeah.
Bram.
Oh, I love you. Okay.
Uh,
I was testing you. You passed my test. Nicely done. So let's go through. Give me
okay.
the top four. What are we looking like there?
Top four, Cooper Flag, after he scored 42 points, broke the freshman record against Notre Dame. He's basically solidified himself as the number one pick. 6'8" forward out of Maine. He's awesome. Two, Dylan Harper, the point guard at Rutgers. His older brother, Ron Harper Jr., was awesome at Rutgers and is just now signed a new contract with, I think, the Celtics G League team. So Dylan Harper, great. He's the first player, I think, in 10 years to have back-to-back 35 plus point games. He's really fun to watch. His teammate Ace Bailey, number 3, 6'8" scoring machine. Never saw a shot he didn't like. Those three are the best. Then 4 and 5, 6, you've got Yegor Denman. He's a point guard at BYU, 6'7", 6'8" point guard, originally from Russia. Then you got Kasparis Yakachonis. He's a 6'6", 6'7" point guard who plays for Illinois. That's the name that I was like, you've never heard this name before.
No, I have not. You like my facial
And
expression?
then
I gave you a
I
facial
know.
expression just like, of course. I know exactly.
Yes.
I have not. Nope.
Yeah. So Kasparis is from Lithuania, and then VJ Edgecombe, the 6'5" guard out of Baylor. He's from the Bahamas. So just kind of like an eclectic group of players, but those players have kind of solidified themselves. Any mock draft you look at, 1 through 5, you're going to see some iteration of those players.
Okay. So we'll hope for those guys, and the glass half full setting, we'll hope for them. But the better chance if we do slip a little bit, but we still find ourselves sixth throughout. Take me here. All right. So who?
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be. You're not reporting on the specific order they're going. We're now just talking about a certain tier of players. Yeah. So give me, let's say, 5 names. Go ahead. Pick. You start us off.
Trey Johnson, he is a combo guard at, or I guess he's more of a shooting guard at Texas. He's 6'6", scoring machine. At one point, he was leading the nation in scoring. So he averages just under 20 points per game. He's kind of their one and done prospect at Texas there. Asa Newell, he is also a freshman. He played on the high school
Hold
team.
on. I want to hear more about Trey John. Don't skip forward. I want to hear more.
Okay, all right.
All right. For Trey, if we fast, or I'm sorry, if we rewound the clock, we put him in a time machine. Trey finds himself in last year's draft. What pick does he go?
Number 1.
Okay, let's go.
Every guy we talk about right now, they would be the number 1 pick.
You're ruining my gimmick. I'm going to
Okay.
ask you this. I'm going to ask you this every time. You stop ruining that gimmick. So he would go number 1 if Jonathan Kuminga is kind of our barometer. Yeah, the potential wise for Trey Johnson. Do you think his upside is higher or lower than JK's?
I would say higher at this juncture of when we were evaluating JK because Trey, just his scoring instincts, his natural scoring instincts. I went down to practice before the season started and they had a lot of transfers coming in. So you saw this power struggle with the older guards, like, who's this freshman? We're hearing he's a lottery pick. And there was this power struggle. And then 2-3 games into the season, it kind of flipped. And they're like, oh, he's really good. If we want to win games, he needs to get touches. And so then there was this kind of like flip with chemistry on the court. And he started getting the ball more. And he's had some great games where he's like broken out, for 25, 30 points. So if just talking about his length and upside and his scoring ability, I think he has a little bit more upside than JK.
Johnson, I'm going to start. So, as you know, I'm going to take this knowledge and then pass it off as my own during conversations. So, okay, got it. Next name.
Yep. Trey Johnson, Asa Newell. He is a 6'11" swing 4 at Georgia. He's also a freshman, starting to develop a little bit more of that pick and pop game, but he has such great hands, great footwork. averaging 15 and 7 a game. He played on that high school team with Cooper Flag. They went undefeated. Derek Queen was on that team. He's another one in this list. Plays forward at Maryland, but they went undefeated, won a national championship, but then he got snubbed as a McDonald's All-American, and that kind of lit a fire in him. And he's out here to like prove like I am a top 10 pick, and he's been playing great.
You know where I'm going? What pick is he in last year's draft?
One.
Oh, I didn't think you'd say that. Whoa, what a surprise answer. And JK is our barometer, higher or lower as far as upside?
Maybe a little bit lower than JK just because we haven't seen him attempt a lot of 3-point jumpers and the pick and pop. And if you're a 6'11 versatile forward in the NBA, you've got to be able to shoot the three. Now, Georgia is not playing him in that capacity. So that might be why, and we'll see him develop that. But yeah, that his three ball is probably the only one where I'm just like, is that going to translate? We'll have to see.
What have you thought of Kuminga this year? Have you had a chance to catch any film on him?
I every time I watch JK, it's like, how many years is this that he's in the league? Because you see the glimpses and you're like, what is holding you back? Like, I don't know what the disconnect is in terms of consistency for him.
Yeah. And I his role and how they're the minutes. I mean, it's just been a complete lack of consistency from the minute he started here. And at this point, if now after that quote I read you, if they literally are seemingly waving the white flag and they recognize the importance of young assets, hopefully we're going to see way more Kaminga. But I don't know. We'll find out. Also, this is going to distract me unless I said earlier you were talking about appearance. For those on the video wondering why I look vaguely homeless, I'm stuck in a hotel room, and I won't say their name because that'd be kind of scandalous. I won't mention that it's a Hilton, but there was no hot water. There's no fucking hot water. And so shower was hard today. So don't blame me. It was what it was. Okay, couple more names. Who
Yep.
falls in this tier?
Derek Queen, I just mentioned him. He was teammates with Asa. I was teammates with Cooper, Rob Wright, who's the point guard, also at Baylor. And he's someone that's really surprised me. And I started hearing rumblings of Derek and how he transformed his body. I mean, this is a guy at McDonald's All-American game last year. He couldn't get his jersey off because he had a bit of a belly, and a teammate had to come and help him lift his jersey over his head. So you see that in front of NBA scouts, and you're just like, oh my gosh, like this guy is so much talent, so much potential, but he needs to work on his body. Then he shows up at Maryland and is like completely ripped, has slimmed down, cut all that baby fat, and he has been awesome this year for Maryland. And so I heard it and I was like, I don't know. I'm kind of worried about his body, but he's averaging 17 and 8 at Maryland, has kind of been the 1-2 punch for them in the pick and roll option. Great rebounder, good footwork, is been healthy, not a lot of injury history with him. So he's someone that is kind of sliding up the ranks too. If you want that size, he's about 6'10, 6'11.
Can you imagine how mortifying that would be? To be like to know that you are being watched by scouts. I mean, that's
I don't think he knew that was the thing. Like,
right? And then, you have a little trouble, like it's not coming off. To have to go to the I need help getting this jersey off, like I literally physically am incapable of getting this off my body. I need you, teammates help. That would be such a nightmare.
yeah.
How deep do you think this draft goes? So, I mean, what's the fall off point? If I'm a Warrior fan and I'm watching these standings, where do I want them to come in? Is it 15? Is it 12? How far down can we go and we'll still get a player who helps immediately?
I would say, when we're looking at 1 through 4, 1 through 5, those are the cornerstone pieces that you want for a franchise. 5 to 12,
Yep.
good supporting cast. And then 12 probably to 20, 25, I think, role players in the NBA.
But
So
people who will contribute
yeah.
if they're not superstars.
But listen, this is a guessing game. Apparently, I'm never allowed to be wrong ever about players in the history of the world. But we move on, we move forward, and it is a guessing game. We don't know how these players are going to develop, and if injuries are going to strike. I want to say Harry Giles and Marvin Bagley Jr. were probably the best high school prospects that I've seen, and they've just kind of through injuries and through different scenarios, they've just kind of like disappeared.
Yeah, I mean, you never know. I mean, and that's true for any prognosticating industry, right? I mean, if you're in
Yeah.
stocks, business, I mean, you never know what the hell is going to happen in the future. But based on what we have, if the Warriors need a score of the people you've given us, who should we hope for? Trey
Ace
Johnson?
Ace Bailey for sure.
Yeah.
Trey Johnson. And if you want someone those are two players that can slide in and play alongside Steph. But if you want someone to create for Steph, obviously Dylan Harper, even Kasparis Yakachonis, and Yegor Demon.
You notice that I didn't try to say those names. I mean, I'm
Yeah,
impressed by them, but there's no way I'll actually be able to say them. KP, I kept you longer than promised. I apologize. I didn't
that's
see.
okay. My next yoga class isn't for another 45 minutes, so we still got time.
Yeah, but you got to get in the right mindset. You got to go destroy them. You got to start looking into chocolate science and everything else.
I know this is. I'm gonna actually like go out with this guy. I'll have to tell you how it goes.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like he's like Willy Wonka or something. I would
That's
like
what
to
his
know.
profile said. He said, "I am a real life Willy Wonka."
I don't know if I'm annoyed by that or not. We're gonna need more details. I mean, how into candy is he? Yeah,
Imagine if I like at one point like end up at his house and it's just like chocolate and candy everywhere.
filled with Oompa Loompas and like chocolate and the whole 9 yards. Don't think I'm not up on my Willy Wonka references. I've
Yes.
seen the movie many times. KP, we missed you. I know I'm not alone in needing way more KP in my life. If I'm right, where can people go?
You can watch me on NBA TV or the NBA app and call some high school games or follow me on Twitter at Krysten Peek and Instagram at Krysten Peek.
Her content is gold. I mean, I jokes aside, because we do this in kind of a friendly setting, Christian is fantastic at this. And so if you want to know anything about what sounds like two very deep and very important draft class for the Golden State Warriors, I would follow her content. For us, where we're at. I don't have to pimp any of those things. I'm sure if you'd like to be following us on social media, you already are. The only thing I will say, check out our YouTube channel where Maxime is doing fun things. With that in mind, go Warriors, and hopefully see you real soon.